Hey guys, it's Chris, and I'm back with another video today, and I'm going to continue to do these little, news videos and, filming news and things like that, articles, etc., and go over some of the things in pop culture until The Witcher, gets going. We get some more trailers. The Witcher starts in December, and then, of course, any filming news as far as the Game of Thrones prequels or spin-offs, whatever you want to call them. But I found this interesting. Turns out, as we kind of suspected, George Lucas doesn't like Star Wars. Alright, so I was browsing Collider today looking for some of this news, and I came across this article I thought was very interesting, and it basically confirms, like I said, what I said before when The Force Awakens and, of course, The Last Jedi came out, about George Lucas is not very pleased. So apparently what's happened here, George Lucas was disappointed by Star Wars The Force Awakens, says Bob Iger. Now, Bob Iger is was the longtime CEO of Disney ever since they bought Star Wars from George Lucas for $4 billion. And he came out with I guess a memoir. So let's go over this article really quickly and see what it says. We know that George Lucas and Mark Hamill, people like that, have taken little shots over the last few years about the direction Star Wars is heading. And this article pretty much confirms it, because this came out in a book, so this is quoted material. This is not just made up, or we're not just assuming anything here. But here we go on Collider here, article by Matt Goldberg just a couple hours ago. There will be some who say that after the prequel trilogy, we shouldn't listen to what George Lucas has to say about Star Wars, which is ridiculous. It is ridiculous. He's the fucking creator of Star Wars. But you can see Lucas trying to do something new in both terms of narrative and in terms of technology. Again, he doesn't succeed on either front, but he didn't try to rehash A New Hope when he made The Phantom Menace. By comparison, Disney and J.J. Abrams played it relatively safe with The Force Awakens because they had to. The studio had just spent $4 billion to acquire Lucasfilm, and they needed audience goodwill to make the investment worthwhile. Now, I can understand this. I totally get why J.J. played it safe. I said this in the original review of The Force Awakens. I did enjoy the movie, but it was a carbon copy of A New Hope. I mean, it did what it was supposed to do in the sense of introducing, the new characters for the next generation, all that good stuff. But the plot was exactly the same. They played it very safe. And this is why, I think people enjoyed The Force Awakens, because it was a proven strategy. A New Hope has stood the test of time as far as the plot. And J.J. Abrams essentially copied the exact plot. I mean, you literally had a giant weapon capable of destroying a planet. The plans for said weapon were stored inside of a droid somewhere, and the droid was chased down by the Empire, or in this case, the First Order. So it was essentially the same movie. The reason is it says right here, Lucasfilm needed audience goodwill to make the investment worthwhile. So I totally get that. So I don't have a big gripe with the way they did The Force Awakens. But in this new memoir, to continue this little article here, in his new memoir, The Ride of a Lifetime, Lessons Learned from 15 Years as CEO of the Walt Disney Company, Bob Iger says that Lucas didn't hide his disappointment over The Force Awakens, saying there was nothing new about Abrams' sequel. In each of the films in the original trilogy, it was important to Lucas to present new worlds, new stories, new characters, and new technologies. In this one, he said, quote, there weren't enough visual or technical leaps forward, Iger said via CNET. So Iger's basically saying here that, George didn't like it. He didn't make any secret about it. And he basically said there's just nothing new here, essentially saying it was a copy of A New Hope. What's really interesting here is the last movie, The Last Jedi, it was all about let the past die, and it was almost a meta thing to the fans, let the past die, whatever. But now with the, the Rise of Skywalker coming out, we all of a sudden, we kind of need the past again. We need Palpatine back, obviously. And, maybe Hayden Christensen and Vader and all this stuff. We need all that stuff back now, because people were just a little disappointed with The Last Jedi. So continuing here, Iger counters, he wasn't wrong, but he also wasn't appreciating the pressure we were under to give ardent fans a film that felt quintessentially Star Wars. Really? So George Lucas, the man who created Star Wars, came out with A New Hope before it was called A New Hope, and then it blew up to a worldwide phenom, didn't understand the pressure of putting out a good movie to continue with Star Wars. Yeah, right, whatever. We'd intentionally created a world that was visually and and tonally connected to the earlier films, not to stray too far away from what people loved and expected, and George was criticizing us for the very thing we're trying to do. As is his right. Yes, you own the property now, and he really can't do anything about it, but he damn sure can give his criticism because it's his world, it's his baby, this is his creation. Now, granted, George Lucas is not the best director in history, but he's always had the story right. Now, people argue about the prequels and stuff, and I totally get all that criticism. The dialogue was a little cheesy in most places, and he's never been great at, I guess, executing his own story, but the story is still there and intact. So to sit there and say that George Lucas didn't understand the pressure is absolutely asinine. I'm sorry, Mr. Iger. Anyway, here's the thing. Both sides are right. Lucas is correct that The Force Awakens is not a bold movie that attempts to do new things. It's largely a mashup of the original trilogy that leans heavily on A New Hope, but its secret weapon is that Abrams is great at character and casting. He didn't need an amazing new story because we all fell for Rey, Kylo, BB-8, Poe, and Finn. So yeah, I mean, I would agree with that. JJ did a good job with The Force Awakens. But again, the main criticism was that it was a rehash, essentially a copy of A New Hope. And again, I said this years ago when I did the actual review for that. But again, I did enjoy it. I thought it did what it was supposed to do, as opposed to The Last Jedi, which is complete 180 out of left field nonsense. And I talk about that too in that original review, obviously well over a year ago. And to kind of wrap up the rest of this article, it's just one more paragraph here. Iger is also correct that they didn't want to stray from what people already knew because that's Disney's brand. Here's the thing you know and love. Disney is not in the business of challenging its customers. Now, that's just a bullshit statement right there. Obviously, they are. Since The Last Jedi, they started blaming the fans for not liking their movie because we were all wrong. We didn't see the art in it or whatever it was. And there's a lot of political motivations, too, behind that, obviously, as far as, PC culture and wokeness and all this other nonsense. It's in the business of making its customers feel more nostalgic because they'll pay more money. Making safe movies has been good business for Disney, and that's likely how they'll continue. Yeah, so anyway, so basically it comes down to just now, years later, with Bob Iger coming out with this book, being the CEO the last 15 years or whatever, that George Lucas didn't like The Force Awakens. Now, it doesn't say anything about The Last Jedi. It's almost like a omission in itself that he leaves that part out because obviously George Lucas did not like The Last Jedi as well. There were little reports here and there and things he mentioned, and Mark Hamill as well. But the thing is, every time they say something in public, they start getting criticized, then they walk it back and say, no, it was great. I thought it was outstanding. They did a great job. Bullshit. You know that's a lie. I mean, it's insane how people can't have an opinion. Even George Lucas, the man who created Star Wars, the guy who created this world for all of us to enjoy, which is why we are ardent fans and we defend it, because this is something that changed pop culture. It changed the world. It became vernacular. It became canon in our own lives. And a lot of us saw this coming with Disney, or at least suspected something when they bought it. And I don't know, I guess money talks. I can't blame him for taking $4 billion. But then, of course, they took his outlines and bought those outlines for the last 3 movies and didn't use anything from them. So he had this whole original idea of what his story should look like and how it should end. And they have the right to do so. They did buy the rights to Star Wars and all its properties. But it's just really aggravating that they took this, they bought the outlines of how his stories would have went if he was still, in charge, and they didn't use them whatsoever. They decided to put this weird Rian Johnson political spin on everything. So I thought that was kind of amusing. It kind of confirms what a lot of us said a long time ago about George Lucas, and also some of the major stars like Mark Hamill, etc. I'm not really sure how Carrie Fisher felt about it. Harrison Ford, he's always hated all this anyway. He just wanted to be killed off a long time ago. But it's just crazy how he can't have an opinion, and he's the damn creator of it, without being without always walking it back or whatever. But this comes out in this book, and these are quotes, and he's not making it a secret anymore. So we'll see if George Lucas gets any backlash. Although I don't think he will for The Force Awakens, since this is specifically about this movie. But The Last Jedi. Anybody that doesn't like The Last Jedi, you're just a horrible person who can't have an opinion, and you're just wrong. So anyway, guys, I only say all this because I love Star Wars. It was my first love before Ice and Fire and Game of Thrones or any other big stories out there in lore and fantasy and all that good stuff and sci-fi. And I just want to see it done well. That's all. Just good storytelling. So anyway, guys, let me know what you think in the comments below. As usual, thank you for all the support, especially you guys on Patreon. And a huge shout out to my executive Patreon SmokeScreen producers. And as usual, if you dig what I do here, please give these videos a like, comment, and a share. I hate to keep asking that all the time, but YouTube, the algorithm is broken, at least for a lot of your favorite creators. You know, there's only certain videos that are pushed out there now. So these videos get less than 1,000 views. Here's a channel sitting with 80,000 subscribers, and it gets less than each video gets less than 1,000 views. People were not notified. They send me messages. They were unsubscribed. All kinds of stuff is still going on. I'm not really sure what to do, but I'm just going to keep grinding. We'll see what happens. But anyway, thank you guys for sticking around. Thank you for all the support. Really appreciate it. And also, of course, be sure to subscribe to Get Everything and click that damn notification bell so you're notified when I drop a new video. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.